Top 10 places to visit in China. China is one of those countries that almost does not feel real until you actually see it with your own eyes. One second you are staring at mountains that look like they were painted for a fantasy movie, and the next second you are standing inside a city that feels 20 years ahead of the rest of the world. It is the kind of place where ancient temples survive beside glowing skyscrapers, where bullet trains move so fast they make airports feel outdated, and where every street somehow smells like a full food documentary. But here is the strange part. Most people think they already know China from social media clips and travel photos, until they actually go there and realize the internet did not even show half of it. Some places are so unreal they almost feel computer-generated. And some moments are so quiet and beautiful that they stay in your head for years. So today, this is not just another travel list. These are the places that genuinely make people stop, stare, and question how one country can contain this much history, chaos, beauty, and mystery all at once. The Great Wall of China. There is something strange about seeing the Great Wall for the first time, because no photo really prepares you for the scale of it. It does not just sit on flat land like people imagine. It climbs mountains, disappears into fog, twists through forests, and stretches so far that it almost feels endless. Standing there makes you realize this wall was built centuries ago without modern machines, without advanced technology, and somehow it still survives today like a giant scar across the landscape. The crazy part is that different sections feel completely different from each other. Some areas are crowded and energetic with tourists from all over the world, while others feel abandoned and almost cinematic, like you accidentally walked into another century. Beijing. Beijing feels like two completely different worlds fighting for space in the same city, and somehow that is exactly what makes it unforgettable. One street gives you massive futuristic buildings covered in giant digital screens, luxury malls, and traffic moving like a science fiction movie. Then 5 minutes later, you are walking through narrow alleyways where elderly locals are playing cards outside tiny traditional houses like time never moved forward. The city carries this strange energy where history never really left, even though modern life keeps trying to race ahead. And then there is the Forbidden City, which honestly feels less like a palace and more like an entire hidden kingdom sitting in the middle of chaos. Shanghai. Shanghai feels like somebody took the future, mixed it with old Europe, added neon lights everywhere, and dropped it beside a river. At night, this city almost looks fake, because the skyline glows so intensely that it feels more like a movie set than a real place where millions of people actually live. The first time people stand on the Bund and look across at those skyscrapers, there is usually a moment where they just go quiet, because the view genuinely feels unreal. But what makes Shanghai special is not just the modern side. The city constantly switches personalities. Zhangjiajie National Forest Park. This place honestly looks like somebody invented it using special effects. The mountains rise straight into the sky like giant stone pillars floating above clouds, and the first reaction most people have is confusion, because landscapes are not supposed to look like this in real life. The craziest part is that these mountains actually inspired the floating world in Avatar, which suddenly makes complete sense the second you see them. Fog moves through the pillars slowly, making entire sections disappear and reappear like the scenery is breathing. Xi'an. Most cities are proud of one historical landmark. Xi'an casually hides an entire army underground. And not a small one either. Thousands of life-sized terracotta warriors standing silently in formation for over 2,000 years like they are still waiting for orders. Seeing them in person feels deeply unsettling in the best possible way. Because every face is different, every expression unique, and somehow they still carry this eerie sense of realism centuries later. But Xi'an itself is way more than just the warriors. The city feels ancient in a way that very few places still do. Guilin. Some places become beautiful because of architecture. Guilin became beautiful because nature completely showed off. The mountains here rise sharply from the earth in these dramatic shapes that almost look artificial, especially when they reflect perfectly across the river during sunrise. It is the kind of scenery that appears on postcards so often that people start assuming it is exaggerated, until they finally see it, and realize the real thing somehow looks even better. Taking a boat down the Li River feels almost hypnotic because every turn reveals another impossible landscape. Fishermen floating quietly on bamboo rafts, tiny villages hidden between mountains, mist drifting across the water early in the morning like something out of a dream. Chengdu. Everybody arrives in Chengdu thinking about pandas, and honestly, that obsession disappears immediately after seeing one in person because they somehow look even more ridiculous and lovable than expected. Watching a panda casually roll around, ignore everyone, and spend half the day eating bamboo like it has zero responsibilities in life is weirdly entertaining. But Chengdu surprises people because the city itself has an incredibly relaxed atmosphere compared to other major cities in China. Locals sit in tea houses for hours talking, playing games, and enjoying life at a slower pace that almost feels rebellious in such a fast-moving country. Tibet. Tibet feels less like a destination and more like entering another state of mind entirely. The landscapes are enormous, the skies feel impossibly wide, and the silence in some areas is so deep it almost feels physical. Everything there moves differently. Life slows down. Conversations slow down. Even breathing reminds people they are standing at one of the highest regions on Earth. And then there are the monasteries built into mountainsides, filled with chanting monks, spinning prayer wheels, and centuries of spiritual tradition that create an atmosphere unlike anywhere else. Hong Kong. Hong Kong feels like pure energy compressed into a city. The streets are packed, the buildings rise endlessly into the sky, neon signs glow above crowded markets, and somehow the entire place still functions with incredible speed. It is chaotic, but it is organized chaos. One minute you are eating incredible street food in a tiny alley packed with people, and the next minute you are standing on Victoria Peak looking down at one of the most famous skylines on Earth. The contrast inside Hong Kong is what makes it fascinating. Hangzhou. There is an old saying in China that heaven has paradise, but Earth has Hangzhou. And after seeing Westlake in person, that sentence suddenly stops sounding exaggerated. The beauty there feels calm instead of dramatic. Willow trees hanging over the water, traditional boats moving slowly across the lake, ancient pagodas appearing through the mist. It feels like stepping directly into an old Chinese painting. But what makes Hangzhou special is the atmosphere surrounding all that beauty. Some places impress with history, some with nature, some with pure futuristic energy. But together they create a country that honestly feels impossible to fully understand in just one trip. And that is probably why so many travelers end up wanting to return again. If this video surprised you or made you add China to your travel list, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment about which place felt the most unreal to you.